right? This is why you keep failing weight loss over and over again, and what you need to do instead to fix it. In fact, this is precisely why most diet attempts never actually last. Let's start top left with our lovely little line chart here. Going upwards, on the upwards axis, we've got, of course, weight. Along the bottom, of course, we've got time. Now, you already know where I'm going with this. Let me again draw your attention here to the red line, which is going to depict here the up and down, our typical roller coaster line. This is representative of the extreme approach to weight loss, the aggressive strategy, the crash diets. I would throw things like juice cleanses, of course, and detoxes into this. We're talking about really extreme calorie deficits that border on starvation. We're talking about going gung-ho with the exercise, inviting on the overtraining, the burnout. We've been sat on the couch for 10 years and then we're suddenly signing up to 6 spinning classes. Of course, here, the roller coaster line, we've got our really all or nothing rules that are so Puritan and perfectionistic. Again, what about weddings? What about celebrations? What about birthdays? What about travel? What about life? When life just happens, life gets messy and you can't control everything. Does it all fall apart because you've set yourself these ridiculously Puritan standards anyway? And of course, we have the spirals and the regains. Now, examining that red roller coaster line more closely here, we're looking, aren't we, at getting off to the races. Can you see how initially that first trend here, I wish I could show you, I need a little cursor. Can I do that? No, I can't. Not here. But initially we're off to the races, right? We're flying down the scale. In that first week, we might lose 5, 6, 7 pounds. Of course, we know lots of it is water weight, but there is a decent amount of fat loss, maybe sadly some muscle here as well, so we're going at it so aggressively, but there is a huge amount of fat loss. We're off to the races. Therefore, we're feeling really proud of ourselves. The motivation is really high and the incentive to continue is really massive. It's like, whoa, I've never seen these results in week 1 before. Already, I'm going to a different notch on my belt. Already, okay, I've got a long ways to go, yeah, but I can see there's a bit of leanness in my, there's a little bit of jawline there. We're lifting up the t-shirt. All right, I don't have the abs yet, but I've got one less roll here. Right? With 5 or 6 pounds, you are going to notice that pretty quickly. And this is the trick. This is the illusion with the extreme approaches, is you get this positive association in your mind that actually always drives you back to the extreme approach when you want to lose weight again, thinking it's your silver bullet, because you have such a positive association of how quickly, how instantly you got results on it. That's the trick. And seeing beyond that is where you're going to have your massive wake-up call here, which we're going to talk about. But anyway, ultimately, week 1, you're off to the races. But we know where this goes. After that first slope, you can see that red line. It comes right back up, doesn't it? In just as short a time as you radically lost weight in the first instance. And that's where you meet bang, you have that massive steep rebound. Maybe you're binging again because you got so ravenous, but ultimately you've relapsed and you've rebounded and you're going right back up the scale once again. So this is the crash diet, it's the extreme approaches. Let me now bring your attention, of course, to the sustainable path. This is our dark green line. You can see that smooth downward sloping line. Now, week 1, what happens? Well, you don't lose anywhere near as much as our roller coaster line with the crash diets. Maybe even week 2, you don't lose anywhere near as much as you did in week 1. And so, all right, you're going nicely. You can recognize the progress on the scale, but you can't actually see it in the mirror yet. When you lift up your shirt, you've still got 4 rolls there. You're still on the same notch of your belt. You're feeling pretty good because you've cleaned up your diet. You're feeling pretty good about yourself, but you're still kind of like, there's still some mystery here. Like, is this definitely working? Is this, like, if I wasn't weighing myself, I wouldn't really know it's working. I'm kind of still sacrificing. It's not brutal. I'm feeling pretty good. I'm sleeping well. I'm feeling high energy. I'm feeling pretty good. It doesn't feel like when I did the crazy crash diets before that I'm hungry and I'm lacking energy and I'm waking up in the middle of the night because I'm starving. It doesn't feel like that, but it is going down. The progress is slower week to week, but this is where the magic happens. When you get to like week 3 or 4, what happens is you end up surpassing the lowest of lows that you got with the extreme approach. But it only comes at like weeks 3 and 4. The problem is people have such bad habits and such a case of immediate resultism, instant gratification, that they're so drawn to the extreme results that bring the extreme approaches that bring those fast results, and therefore you've got those positive associations with them, and they feel like the magic pill silver bullet because you notice results so fast. You get dragged to those things that you can never develop the consistency and the temperament to even do the sustainable approach, to even sometimes see, you're like blind to it, head in the sand, to even see the sustainable approach will eventually outperform the fast, aggressive extreme. You can't even imagine a world where that's possible, but that is the trap. That's the trick of the roller coaster. Slow and steady really does win the race, but it's unfancy. And you can see here, look at my bullets here under the sustainable path label, right? We're using a moderate, not an extreme calorie deficit. We're doing simple meals with no weird restrictions where we have to cut out the carbs, have a fat phobia, no avocados, they're high in calories, no nuts and seeds, like some of the high carbers do. And certainly none of the keto nonsense where you're thinking carbs are the enemy. Let's demonize the carbs and have shocking glycogen storage, really poor energy, and feel terrible and a lack of satisfaction. But any of those very aggressive macronutrient attacking diets, we don't do any of that. We just have simple but balanced meals, right? We focus, bullet number 3, on genuine behavior and habit change, which you can never do when you're trapped in the quick fix, diet, hacky, fad mentality paradigm. And of course, finally, it's built to actually last this time, so it sticks, right? We've got this bend the rules, not break them attitude, right? So instead of breaking everything down when things go wrong or you hit that plateau, you just make your small tweak. Instead of avoiding the meal out altogether and then later resenting your diet and then binging anyway because it's so intolerable and unrealistic in the first place, you actually do go out to eat for that meal, but you don't have your dessert necessarily, and you don't have a glass of wine with it, and you share the starter, the appetizer, you only have half, and you make a relatively, it's not perfect, you still have a bit of fun, but you make a relatively decent choice from the menu rather than having the burger and the fries. Maybe you pick, I don't know, the hippy dippy quinoa and edamame salad, right? It still feels like a treat because you're eating out, but there is still some guardedness, some caution. And no, you can't just go crazy and indulge when you want, right? Guilt-free necessarily, but that's our thinking here. Okay, there's that inbuilt flexibility rather than the puritanism that suggests that if you don't do it textbook perfect, you failed and screw it, you may as well give up anyway. We keep fiber high for the fullness. You know, if you've been following me for time here, I'm an advocate for plant-based eating. This is such a lovely way to maintain a moderate calorie deficit with the right composition of plant-based foods. We do with exercise, we don't do the crazy HIIT burnout. If you've been sat on the couch, as I say, for the last 2 decades, we do slow go exercise philosophy, right? Gentle movement, and we progressively build up your strength and fitness, progressively and gradually over time, so you're not biting off more than you can chew and spiking your appetite more than you can control as a novice with nutrition, right? We're not risking injury as much. That can always happen if you're not doing things correctly. We're not risking injury as much. We're not risking fatigue as much, and the burnout and the lack of motivation that can come from like just again, biting off more than you can chew with exercise, having a routine that simply you're not designed for yet, you've not built yourself up to yet. Makes sense? So again, slow and steady wins the race. This is this marathon, not sprint mentality. It's unsexy, right? We're shooting for 1 to 2 pounds per week rather than 3 or 4 pounds per week, okay? It's not sexy. But this is exactly how we do it on Slim and Sustain. This is what Slim and Sustain, I made Slim and Sustain to fix these exact problems because I realized this in my own life, fixed it, started getting results, started obviously documenting it online. Then eventually, I'm saying this all in short form, this happened over years, but gradually started teaching other people the process. And so this was born. But its simplicity and its sustainability, that's what we focused on. And that was the big aha moment for me. This was the massive epiphany. You don't have a weight loss problem. You have a sustainability problem. And you've got to stop thinking about this as, how am I going to lose weight? How am I going to have the abs for the vacation? How much can I lose in the next 8 weeks? You've got to stop framing it like this. Right? The goal isn't to lose weight as fast as possible. The goal is to make it sustainable enough to actually keep the weight off. And that's what our green line does here. That's what the sustainable path does here. Okay, I've maybe exaggerated how linear it is in reality. For the point of the metaphor, you catch my drift here. You eventually outperform the roller coaster line, even though it doesn't always feel like it in the very, very short term. The moment this clicks for you is the moment everything changes. That was the big big, epiphany for me. So I hope me breaking this down and showing this to you visually was useful and showing you a different framework for how to think about weight loss and why most diet attempts never really last and how to fix that and do things differently this time. Of course, if you're done with the roller coaster nonsense and want a plan you can actually sustain, go to veganslimandsustain.com right now. Watch my free 45-minute training there and complete the form. That's how you can apply to learn more about Slim and Sustain if you're ready to stop starting over. Once again, that's veganslimandsustain.com. See you in the next one.